Odin, I feel the dark, grey sky gathering its forces. Fenrir howls beneath the mountain. Jörmungandr thrashes in the depths of the sea. With such momentum, how can we stop the fury of Ragnarok? You are not alone, Alfather. Thor has honed Mjölnir, and Tyr is preparing to bind Gleipnir one last time. But this war is more than just a clash between thunder and darkness. What do you mean, my son? A new power is rising, Father. It is neither monster nor entirely deity. I just heard whispers from Yggdrasil. Those who choose the dead are quietly gathering. Those who choose the dead. Who are they? No one knows yet, but if we do not uncover their identity before the last light fades, all 9 realms will drown in fire and ice. Then there is no time to hesitate. Summon the Aesir and Vanir. Secrets are about to be uncovered, and I must be ready. Yes, Father, but I fear that by the time night falls again, the fate of the gods will no longer be in our hands. Hello, friend. That was the story between the supreme god Odin and his son Thor. Today we will delve into the tale of Norse mythology, including the religion and beliefs of the pre-Christian era, along with the legends of the peoples of Scandinavia, even the settlers on the island of Iceland, where many written sources of Norse mythology were preserved. A well-known branch of Norse mythology is that of the Germanic peoples, which developed out of earlier Indo-European mythological traditions. Listen to the entire story. If you enjoy it, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel to hear more great stories. Centuries before the light of the gospel spread across the continent, the Norse believed in a wondrous polytheistic cosmos. They looked up at the brilliant auroral sky, saw Odin, the supreme god, riding a 2-headed horse, watching over the 9 realms, heard Thor's thunder twist through the heavy clouds, and trembled at the sight of Fenrir, the giant bloodthirsty wolf, waiting for the day he would bite through the bindings of Ragnarok. Everything around them was not just reality, but fragments of legend, woven between reverent awe and quiet dread. Origins of the belief. First, imagine a fishing village on the coast of Norway or Sweden, where waves lap against wooden piers, and the sound of oars striking the water murmurs like the whispers of gods. In the early morning, while mist still clings to the surface of the sea, the elder Odinson, seen as the intermediary between humans and the divine, walks out onto the sand and places a crude wooden statue. It is the image of Yggdrasil, the world tree, its roots stretching deep into Vanaheim and Niflheim, its crown holding up Asgard high in the clouded sky. Yggdrasil is not only a symbol of the cosmos, but a living testament to the connectivity between realms, gods, humans, the undead, and the spirits of ancestors. Each year, when the winter solstice brings the shortest day to a close, the villagers gather around the symbolic trunk of Yggdrasil. They light candles, offer mead and roasted pork, praying for the chill to pass and for early spring to open its heart. The chant Halla, Halla, Halla blends with the blasts of horn made from horn, echoing across the hills, as if announcing that the gods, Odin, Thor, Freyja, and other divine beings, have heard the call. In the mythic world of Norse legend, the gods are divided into 2 clans, the Aesir and the Vanir. The Aesir, dwelling in Asgard, are powerful deities like Odin, the god of wisdom, war, and death. Thor, the thunder god, protector of humanity against dark forces, and Tyr, the god of justice. Meanwhile, the Vanir, who reside in Vanaheim, are gods tied to fertility and abundance. Freyja, the god of harvest and prosperity. Freyja, the goddess of love, beauty, and magic. And Njörd, the sea god who safeguards merchant ships on their voyages. In a reconciliation ceremony, after the Aesir-Vanir War, Njörd, together with his son Freyja and daughter Freyja, were brought to Asgard as hostages, a symbol of lasting peace between the 2 divine clans. Common folk believed that joint offerings, sacrifices of animals, bread, and fragrant mead, made to both Aesir and Vanir, would ensure bountiful crops and calm seas. Folk belief and ancestor worship. Norse belief didn't stay confined to great temples. It seeped into every thatched cottage. People hung protective amulets, often carved in the shape of Mjölnir, Thor's hammer, above the main door to drive away spirits and shield the family from storms. Before the hearth, the woman of the house would light a stick of birch incense, praying that the ancestors would bless the meal with abundance and grant health to the children. When someone died, they were buried with essentials: axes, spears, wooden cups, ceramic bowls, and in some cases, even small wooden boats. The common people believed the departed soul had to cross an icy sea to reach Vanaheim or Valhalla, the halls reserved for valiant warriors. If the funeral rites were incomplete, the soul might wander the dark woods, transforming into a Draugr, a chilling undead being with glowing red eyes. The journey all the way to Iceland, and the recording of the sagas. When the western winds split the waves into the Atlantic, the longships, narrow warships that glided lightly over the water, carried brave sailors cutting through the surf to explore. They set foot on the shores of Scotland, the Isle of Man, the Faroe Islands, and finally Iceland, the Ice Island in the old tongue. At first, Iceland was wild, nothing but bogs, snow and ice and volcanic rock. But it was here, amid the harshness of nature, that the Vikings created a precious legacy. Handwritten sagas. The sagas, like Islendingabok by Ari the Learned, or the Prose Edda by Snorri Sturluson, preserved hundreds of legends, from the tale of Odin sacrificing himself to seek the wellspring of wisdom to the final clash between Thor and the giant serpent Jörmungandr. In the small coastal monasteries, Scandinavian-born monks, descendants of those sailors, carved runes onto sheepskin, stitched them into books, and recorded the origins of their religion and the myths of their ancestors. The nine-tier cosmos and the spiritual rhythm. The 9 realms in Norse mythology are Asgard, the residence of the Aesir gods; Vanaheim, the sacred land of the Vanir gods; Alfheim, the realm of the elves; Midgard, the world of humans connected to Asgard through Yggdrasil; Jotunheim, the domain of the giants; Svartalfheim, the realm of the dwarves master-smiths; Nidavellir, the subterranean realm where enchanted stones are born; Muspellheim, the primal realm of fire, home to Surtur, the fire giant; Niflheim, the misty frozen region, the dwelling of Hela, the goddess of death. At each dusk, the villagers in Midgard would sit around the symbolic trunk of Yggdrasil, reciting passages from the Edda, to feel themselves as a link in the vast cosmic chain. The sounds of horns, drums, and resonant songs would stir the spirits of their ancestors, reminding people of their roots, strong, enduring, yet fragile like thawing ice. Odin and the drop of wisdom. The legend tells that at the dawn of the cosmos, before there was sky or earth, there existed only a vast void called Ginnungagap. From it, the will of the gods awakened, and Odin with his 2 brothers, Vili and Ve, shaped Midgard, the world of humans, from the flesh and blood of Ymir, the primordial giant. But even more pivotal was Odin's quest for knowledge. Odin, driven by a hunger to understand the mysteries of the universe, sacrificed his right eye in exchange for a divine drop from Mimir's well. Mimir's well, nestled beneath the roots of Yggdrasil, was guarded by Mimir, the keeper of wisdom. It was believed that anyone who drank from its waters would pierce the veil of past, present, and future. When Odin bowed and left an eye in the well, the golden water flooded his mind, bestowing upon him power and insight beyond mortal imagining. From that time on, each night when darkness fully fell, Odin would ride Sleipnir, his legendary 8-legged steed, across the sky listening to the world's sighs, collecting prayers and untold stories. The villagers of western Norway believed that if you heard the soft thud of hoofbeats among the bushes, Odin was near, coming to read the courage and wisdom of humankind. Thor and the fury of thunder. While Odin pursued wisdom, Thor, his son with the goddess Jord, was the embodiment of raw natural power. When the sky turned grey and thunder cracked, the Vikings did not fear, for they believed Thor was swinging his hammer Mjölnir to cleave the dark clouds, shielding humanity from chaotic forces. Mjölnir, forged from two mishaps in the smithy of the dwarves Sindri and Brokkr, was more than an offensive weapon. It was a charm of blessing, bringing life and prosperity to the harvests. Each year, during the Thorrablot festival, early spring according to the old calendar, the villagers prepared a great feast for Thor. They hung strips of salted meat on oak staffs, then carried a procession through the village, singing the refrain Thor, Thor, Medvesmead, to summon favourable weather. Over sweet mead, they shared the tale of the battle between Thor and the giant serpent Jörmungandr, creature coiled around the sea, waiting for Ragnarok to open its maw and devour the world, Freyja, and the mystery of Seiðr, magic. Alongside the gods of war and wisdom, Freyja, the goddess of love and magic, is the soul of the art of Seiðr. Seiðr is not merely fortune-telling. It is a weaving and disturbance of fate's current. Legend says Freyja taught Odin the rites of Seiðr, even though it brought him criticism from the Aesir, for Seiðr was considered feminine and improper for a man. Villagers say that on new moon nights, Freyja would sit before the wooden gate, draped in a fox fur cloak, her eyes quietly surveying the darkness. She would hum a haunting song, calling forth visions of the departed in the glassy surface of the still pool. Her rasping voice sounded like whispers from another world, drawing listeners into a dreamlike trance to behold joys, sorrows, and hidden secrets buried deep in the heart. Behold, Njörður, the ship, and the ocean's dream one cannot forget Njörður, the sea god, who brings calm to ships cutting through the waves. In Midgard, many families depended on the bounty of the sea, and they continually prayed to Njörður for favourable winds. They would fill a small bowl with seawater, place it on the altar at the pier, then set it alight as an offering, beseeching the sea god to watch over their voyage. When the Vikings sailed to Iceland, they erected large stone assemblies called Thingvellir, the site of the Althing Council, established in 930. There, representatives of the clans gathered to lay down laws for the new land. Whenever the council convened, they struck horn bells to invoke Njörður's blessing on the assembly, that it proceeds smoothly and that strangers and locals alike would maintain peace. The Edda tales, the runic letters carved now. As we sit in silence, hearing only the crackle of fire and the whispering wind, imagine the monks in Iceland, seated in the monasteries of Reykholt or Þingeyra, before flickering oil lamps, inscribing each rune onto sheepskin. They carefully record every tale. Balder, Odin's beloved son, slain by a mistletoe, darts swapped by Loki, bringing unending sorrow to the gods. Or Heimdall, the watchman of the Bifrost, hearing the grass grow, a sign that Ragnarok is about to begin. The prose Edda and poetic Edda are not merely literary treasures but mirrors, reflecting the Norse worldview. Every line is steeped in the spirit of an age when people lived inseparably with a harsh nature, and the gods were present in every cloud, every gust of wind, every roar of the waterfall. The Valkyries in the night sky, in the misty expanse where white clouds mingle with stars, ethereal female figures drift. These are the Valkyries, the choosers of the slain under Odin's command. Whenever battle erupts in Midgard, the Valkyries ride winged steeds, sweeping through the hail of war and gliding in the smoke of combat to select the heroic warriors worthy of entering Valhalla. Their names are carved into the stone walls of Asgard, and when they hum, their song is like chimes of jade, calling the souls of soldiers from the sea of blood back to the silent thousand stars. The villagers say that if on a quiet night you hear branches knocking together like the ringing of a sword, it might be a Valkyrie gliding over the treetops, blinking to claim the souls of the honoured dead. They are not fiends but messengers of justice and courage, guiding the reflections of warriors to the endless mead feast beneath Valhalla's vaulted hall. Valhalla, home of the warriors. Valhalla in the Old Norse tongue means the Hall of the Fallen. Imagine a palace stretching beneath the auroral light, its roof blazing gold, and its stone pillars carved with exquisitely detailed warriors. Each dawn, countless defeated fighters clash swords in a ceremony of honour, training for the day of Ragnarok. When night falls, they gather around enormous mead tables, carried in by the boar Mangalud, driven by Freyja, to sing and share the lifeblood of courage. Stories of Valhalla travelled all the way to Iceland, where monks set them down in the sagas. They say that when you pass through the gate of Bifrost, you can hear the echo of war drums, smell thick smoke mingled with sweet fragrant mead. And if you have the chance, listen to the whispers of the warriors, though mortal ears may not catch them. In the soul of the listener, one can feel the heartbeat of the cosmos. Hel and the underworld realm. Across the frozen expanse of Niflheim, where the air is soaked in biting frost, lies the realm of Hel, where the souls of those who died of old age, sickness, or unworthy of Valhalla are kept. The goddess Hela, her upper half a strikingly beautiful woman, and her lower half a rotting skeleton, sits upon a moss-covered stone throne, her eyes quiet like a deep well. It is believed that when night falls, a sickly blue flame rises from the river Yggdrasil, illuminating the path to Hel's Gate, where wandering spirits drift between cracked ice and the eerie howls of wind. The Norse common folk avoided speaking of Hel plainly, for those who returned from near it, and told the tale rarely survived. They would say, if in a dream you find yourself lost in a mire of coal and mud with no stars to guide you, wake up immediately. Your soul is being pulled toward the abyss. It is a reminder that even while people venerate mighty gods, an impartial law endures. Everyone must face death at least once. The dwarves and the divine hammer, Mjölnir, deep within the pitch-black caverns of Svartalfheim. The dwarves, masterful smiths, stoke their forges day and night, bending the searing flames and the ringing strikes of hammers. They forge great treasures. Thor's hammer, Mjölnir, the binding rope Gleipnir used to restrain Fenrir, and the golden hair Suna, the strand of the goddess of light. The tale says that when Loki, the cunning god, cut off the golden hair of the goddess Sif, Thor's wife, he was forced to commission the dwarves Sindri and Brokkr to craft a replacement made of pure gold. That hair not only gleamed in sunlight, but wove itself into Sif's head, never falling out, becoming a symbol of fidelity and immortal beauty. The call of Ragnarok. At the final stage of this journey, let your mind listen to the whispers from the depths of the prose Edda. Ragnarok, the apocalypse of the gods. The common folk say that when Fenrir struggles and breaks his chains, when Jörmungandr rises from the depths of the sea, when Surtur, the fire giant, steps to the edge of the world, the Edda will ring out mournful verses, heralding the shattering of the Nine Realms. Yet even in that ash, Yggdrasil will bud anew, the children of Baldur will return, and the world will be born again, in peace and purity. Mývatn Lake, the water mirror of the elves. Imagine a pristine early morning, when the sun still rests on the eastern horizon, and a thin veil of mist lies over Lake Mývatn. The wide lake, formed from ancient lava flows, now lies like a vast mirror, reflecting the crystalline sky. Locals tell that beneath its depths, elf maidens dance during midsummer nights, leaving behind a shimmering light along the water's edge each time dawn peaks open. On full moon nights when silver spreads across the surface, the drottngjol, small wooden boats, drift silently. Icelandic sailors believe that if you skillfully row to the centre of the lake, you will hear the wind whispering names. It is the song of Ylfa and Svava, two elf maidens who once challenged the god Freyja in a singing contest. That enchantment soothes the heart, as if being cradled within nature's embrace. The Reykjadalur, hot spring, warmth amid ice. Not far from Mývatn, the warm valley of Reykjadalur winds through peat hills and steaming hot springs. Smoke billows from the earth, mingling with the cold air to form a mystical mist. The ancients believed those rising vapours were the breath of Surtur, the fire giant, still held within the earth after the primordial struggle between fire and ice. Villagers likened dipping a hand into the spring to feeling the heartbeat of Ymir, the primordial giant, still glowing faintly in the warm water. They said that during the Spring Blot Festival, kin gathered beside the stream, sipping the hot water, praying that the earth would not snap with sudden frost, and asking the gods to bless each home with peace. Vestrahorn Peak, where the ancient dragon awakens, turning windward to the southwest of Iceland, you will find Vestrahorn, a towering mountain with sheer rock faces, standing like a defiant fortress against the ocean. Legend says this is the hiding place of Fafnir, the prehistoric dragon guarding the hoard of gold and jewels of a destroyed Viking clan. Nearby Faroese fishermen tell that anyone daring to climb Vestrahorn's summit under a new moon will meet Fafnir's glinting gaze from the darkness, and only by sincerely offering a pure tribute, an exquisite ember, will the great dragon let them pass. The ascent to Vestrahorn demands patience and courage. The rocks are slick, waves crash harshly on the shore, but upon reaching the peak, the landscape unfolds like another world. Deep blue sea, untamed meadows, and an open sky. There one understands that Norse legend does not live only in books, but is hidden in the terrain, rivers, and mountains. The Faroe coast sails amid the sea mists, across scattered isles shrouded in fog. The Faroes rise like a green velvet carpet over the ocean. The Faroese tell the story of Audild, a brave woman who rode through storms to carry news from Iceland to Norway. On a night of wind and rain, Audild relied only on the light of a makeshift lighthouse and prayers to Njörður until her boat made landfall, bringing glad tidings of abundant harvests. Today, as you walk over moss-covered rocks, you can still hear echoes of oars beating the water, reminding you of the resilient spirit of ancestors. Sometimes a sea breeze carries salt and the distant sound of a horn, making one feel connected to the voyage across waves, seeking new lands. Listening to the earth and sky tell their stories, now having travelled together the trails around Lake Mývatn, the warm stream of Reykjadalur, the summit of Vestrahorn, and the Faroe coast. Sit by the fire, close your eyes, and listen. Every gust of wind, every droplet, every falling dew is a new chapter of Norse legend. They whisper of bravery, love, longing, and faith in a colourful, polytheistic cosmos. In the thin mist of the summer solstice, when pale golden sunlight filters through the flickering leaves, the Nordic landscape unfolds like a gentle melody. The babbling of mountain streams blends with birdsong, carrying ancient whispers of ice and fire. Stalactites on cave walls reflect light like crystal, as if preserving the silhouettes of primeval beings. Ice giants, colossal entities sleeping within the earth, waiting for the day they awaken. Legend says that deep within the limestone layers beneath Mývatn lies a quiet kingdom where verdant moss cloaks the cliffs. The ice giants, Jötnar, who were once friends of the gods before conflicts erupted, now exist silently through the sighs of the chilly wind. They do not sow hatred, nor do they meddle in human affairs. When snow falls thick, the Norse believe their giant hands have touched the ground, forming white mounds of ice. In that space, waves still lap the distant Faroe shore. Recounting the tale of Jörmungandr, the enormous serpent coiled around the ocean. Some say that on a moonless night, if you cast your net into the water, the small piece of bread hooked on your line can vanish without a trace in an instant. That is when Jörmungandr gently rises to the surface, sniffs, then breathes out a salty mist, making the water froth with white bubbles. Old fishermen warned each other to light a small candle on the gunwale, a safe signal to tell the serpent that the boat is merely a passing guest and not to be disturbed. On lonely rocks where the wind carries the chill of the northern sea, one often finds crude carvings of Thor's hammer Mjölnir. No one knows whether they are remnants of battles between gods and enemies, or simply gifts left by dwarven smiths. Perhaps whenever Thor hurled his hammer, it struck the stone ceiling and returned to the thunder god's hand. And a small fragment broke off and remained here as a witness to Thor's unmatched power. The summer mist fades as our steps drift into the Faroe lands, where sea eagles circle over cliff faces. Their harsh cries echo in the still air, evoking the image of Freyja riding her goosehair chariot, bringing dreams to the intoxicated. The ancients believed that if you see the shadow of this noble bird in the sky, quietly offer a prayer, for it is an auspicious sign of love and bountiful harvests. The legends of the journeys of the god Balder also weave through the mountain crevices. Balder, the most beautiful and gentle of the Aesir gods, was never harmed, except by a shaft as light as a hair. The Norse say that before descending to Valhalla, Balder often visited Midgard in the form of morning light, watching over human footsteps and innocent faces. That light, soft as a smile, made the coral reefs below the sea glow in vivid colours under the faint sun. Night falls, the landscape deepens into purple, and we step into the wild domain of the fire realm Muspellheim, where Seiðr, the fire giant, guards the glowing gateway. It is believed that beneath the ash and the flames spurting from the lava flow, every resounding sound is like a war drum heralding the apocalypse of Ragnarok. But it is also within those ashes that new seeds sprout. When the fire cools, the fresh green shoots of Yggdrasil rise again, opening an unending cycle of life for the world. In the quiet moment, listen to the whispers of stone and water, to feel the merging of ice and fire, of gods and humans. Untitled stories, unwritten legends are still being etched by the breath of wind and the rhythm of each footstep. That is the soul of the North, a long lingering song that lulls us into deep sleep and awakens fragments of legendary memory and dreams. In the faint light of the northern horizon, as the first stars begin to glitter, the space around us becomes utterly silent. The only sounds are the wind slipping through dry leaves and quiet footsteps on the damp moss carpet. We are moving deeper into the Hemsedal Valley, a place the old stories say the ancient forest still hides half-human, half-beast beings, mysterious huldra, and many legends buried under snow for 1,000 years. Among the ancient trees, moonlight filtering through the leaves paints mottled patches of light and shadow. They say if you listen closely you can hear the whispers of the huldra, maidens with beautiful bodies, dresses embroidered with flowers, but behind them are the tales of wild cattle, or twisting roots. They come near the protective charms hung on branches, whisper blessings to the righteous, or lure the lost into labyrinths of giant roots. Some return with hearts softened, others vanish forever in the old woods because of a single promise: follow me to the wildflower field. As we cross the little stream running through the valley, its surface reflecting the night mountains, there are smooth, cool stones underfoot. The people say those are the footprints of Hwefn, the goddess of love, who guards the streams so that love never runs dry. They carved hearts and runic lines on the stones, praying for lovers who come and go, so that Hwefn might witness and bless faithful romance. Far on the hillside, we see the flickering light of an old wooden hut. That is the home of a runic witch, an old man with silver hair and eyes sparkling like stars, who knows the past and future of those who seek him. In the dark, he puffs pipe smoke into a white haze, then draws shifting runes into the air. Visitors must bring a birch branch as an offering in exchange for counsel to survive hardship or find a way out on a snowy day. On the wild fields where thousands of grasses bloom in summer, there are traces of the Huldufolk, the hidden people. They live in small earthen mounds, only revealed when the snow melts in spring. Shepherds once placed a small fire next to water jars in the yard, so the Huldufolk would not feel cold, and in their displeasure, sabotage the crops. Whoever accidentally steps on such a mound might suffer bad luck for a whole year, but might also receive an unexpected gift: a strange seed that grows into a sweet fruit tree. As night deepens, we hear the echo of horn bells from the hill across. That is the signal of the Veternætur rites, the winter festival held by clans before the beginning of spring. People build great fires and sing the old chant, Velar risu I limum Thors, to call on Thor to grant warmth, to melt frost quickly, and to protect newborns from cold. In that belief, the living and the divine share a heartbeat, continuing the endless story of the northern lands. Then, when we turn back under the silver moonlight, we see footprints pressed into the moss, marks of mythic journeys we have only just touched. Every step is a story. Every breath is a whisper of ancestors. Here, between earth and sky, vast and wide, we do not only hear tales of gods, but also feel the warmth of people, those who planted faith in the spirits of mountains, forests, seas, and the boundless sky. The pale morning light glints off massive ice slabs, making them sparkle like thousands of crystals. In the distance, the silhouette of an ancient temple slowly appears on the mountainside, where runic wizards gather on the winter solstice night to carve prayer marks into stone, awakening the latent power of Galdr. Those stones bear shapes of runes. Each symbol contains a different meaning: protection, courage, prosperity, or the harshness of fate. We move closer, bare feet pressing through the thin snow under thick boots to feel the deep chill. The old wizard stands before the ice altar, murmuring ancient syllables. His hand glides over the stone surface, releasing a faint halo, like silver threads connecting the present to a distant past. They say that if you hear a complete Galdr verse, the soul is purified, and all sorrow dissolves in the blizzard. Beneath the temple there is a spring with a thin sheet of ice, believed by the ancients to contain a drop of blood from Sol, the sun goddess. When the weak rays of the sun strike the stream, each tiny droplet flashes 1,000 sparks, bringing hope for an approaching warmth. The locals skillfully ladle it into small bronze cups to use in rituals, praying that the sun's warmth will soon melt the ice on the fields. We continue onward, crossing frozen stone steps to a remote valley holding relics of ancient warriors. They erected tall stones engraved with the names of the dead, and fierce battles fought to defend the border from the giants of Idun. Between the monoliths, tattered red banners still bear dried blood. Whenever the wind passes, it whistles like a challenge from the past, reminding that freedom is never free. As night falls and the sky fills with stars, we drop into a thin-walled wooden hut, where old warriors gather by the fire. They pass around steaming mead, recounting memories of past trials, climbing the highest peaks to collect supernatural snow for Seiðr rites, or nocturnal hunts tracking colossal beasts to prove bravery before the gods. Warm laughter chases away the crisp chill of the north. Beyond that reunion, we follow a young sorceress down into a ravine where an icy waterfall boils into white foam. She spreads her arms wide, utters the final runes, and the cascade seems to listen, answering with a more thunderous roar. That waterfall, she explains, is called Fimbulvetur, the absolute winter, symbolising the ultimate harshness before the world's transformation. Yet within that extreme freeze, the seed of rebirth is being deeply sown. When we lift our gaze to the night sky, the aurora in green and pink traces undulating bands, as if redrawing the figure of Odin riding Sleipnir across the Nine Realms. Galdr echoes far, prayers touching flesh and bone, reminding humanity of the bond between earth and sky, between past and future. In that moment we understand that this journey is not merely an exploration of myth, but a return to the deepest part of the soul, to feel the power and faith of ancestors flowing in every breath. To the west, where the Orkney archipelago rises like jade stones amid the sea. On the wind-eroded cliff faces, ancient rocks bear the carvings of ancestors, sail shapes, crescent moons, and dark spiralling circles. The old ones believed those engravings were not mere decoration, but maps guiding the souls of the departed, helping them find their final resting place after journeys through the years. In that vast space, the people of Orkney hold a seasonal transition rite at each beginning of summer. When wildflowers on the cliffs begin to bloom, they gather around the standing stone of Stennis, a towering menhir, as if the guardian of the earth's secrets. The gnarled hands of elders gently stroke the surface of the stone, whispering prayers for fertile fields and calm seas. Children press close to one another, excitedly listening to tales of Magnus the Wanderer, the brave youth who once rowed across oceans seeking the secret seed. The ice flower said to heal any wound. According to legend, the ice flower blooms only on the longest night of the year, when the full moon's light filters through cracks in the rock. Its translucent petals seem made of mist, but are as hard as crystal, emitting a pale blue glow. Gatherers seek the stone frame where Magnus fell. The flower grew from his blood, shining with miraculous life. Brought home, the blossoms are soaked in fragrant mead, distilled into the essence of frost. A precious remedy to heal wounds from wild beasts or soothe the aching hearts of the defeated. Amid the sound of waves and wind whistling through the tent's peak, we hear of migration parties cutting across from Leith to Orkney, carrying copper pots and cloth bundles, searching for land to survive harsh winters. They pitch temporary shelters, learn to weave woolen cloth, endure blizzards, and draw warmth from the earth. On cold, clear nights, when the aurora shimmers overhead, they gather around great fires, softly singing the ancient tune Veterneta, a melody like a gentle lifeblood, connecting past and future. The flickering firelight in the elders' eyes seems to trace each wrinkle back to distant memory. They tell of a time when a violent storm swept away most of their belongings, yet the children preserved a small flask of ice flower-infused mead. Though just a few drops, when shared, everyone felt warmth flood their bodies and clarity sharpen their minds, dispelling exhaustion. Since then, ice flower gin became a symbol of the will to rise above adversity, a reminder that even in extreme cold, healing power endures. Stepping outside the tent, we see wildflowers stretching across the stony ground, once barren, now bursting with life. The cries of gulls fill the air like a hymn welcoming the new day. The murmuring waves bring to mind the prophecy in the Prose Edda. When the ice flower fades, the world will enter a new cycle of growth. Yggdrasil will flourish more vibrantly than ever, and humanity will continue writing the legendary chapters they once thought forgotten. The weird forest, where massive ancient trunks crowd, wild birds call in the gloom, and the spirits of the fairy realm mingle with the breath of plants. No need to follow a trail, just listen to the rustle of leaves, and you will find the secret path into that hidden world. Wired forest is unlike any place in Scandinavia. The bark of elder trees is furrowed like the hands of the aged. Roots twist up over the ground, forming a natural labyrinth. The old stories say that anyone who enters without carrying a special rune amulet will become lost forever in the forest night, until their soul drifts away with the cold wind. That talisman, carved by a runic wizard, combines the Fehu sign, representing wealth, and the Laguz sign, symbolizing water and intuition, to protect its bearer from the enchantments of the hidden people. Deeper in, the forest opens to a small, still pool, its surface clear as a mirror. Legend holds that this is the mirror of Alfheim, the fairy mirror, where beings of light pause when passing through Midgard. If you dare to lean over and look, your eyes will reflect the image of a fairy with shimmering silver hair and delicate wings that flicker in and out of sight. She waits silently for mortals to see her, but only pure hearts, untainted by greed or malice, can retain that image in their memory when they leave the woods. The wind shifts, carrying the rich incense scent of Bodhi and fir. A distant bell tolls, like the call of the god Freyja, announcing that summer has arrived. Villagers believe Freyja, the Vanir god of love and fertility, often uses the mirror of Alfheim to gaze upon mortal waters, listening to wishes for happiness and abundance. Once a year, on the festival of Sumalid, the longest day, they swim across the pool, place bouquets of wildflowers on the surface, and set them adrift so that God may accept their prayers for a bountiful harvest. Continuing across the slender wooden bridge spanning the stream, we reach a hidden hut in the woods, the home of the witch Letha, who was taught her craft by Freyja. Warm candlelight glows through the cracks, mingling with herbal smoke to create a sacred atmosphere. Letha, with loose golden hair and deep blue eyes, greets strangers with a gentle smile. She brews us a cup of honeysuckle tea, explaining that the flower blooms only when the sun embraces the night mist, a condensation of love and hope. Drinking it, we feel our heartbeats soften and our worries dissolve. Letha leads us down into a forest hollow where rays of light weave shimmering nets through the canopy. There grows a strange tree, slim trunk, deep green bark, snow-white flowers that emit a sweet fragrance. This is the Mjölnir tree, said to be the bridge between Midgard and Alfheim. When Freyja wandered between the two worlds, she often sat beneath its shade, collecting its nectar to craft her legendary necklace, Brisingamen. Letha advises carrying a sprig of Mjölnir as a protective charm, to keep in courage and gentleness in the heart. Beyond the sound of waves from the distant shore echoes, reminding us that even lost deep in the woods, the sea still murmurs softly. They say that from moss-covered rocks at the forest's edge, one can glimpse Alfheim, the realm of light fairies, on clear windless days. The dusky violet light of sunset, reflecting on the pool, makes it seem as if you are beholding a fairy plaza, where light beings gather beneath crystal canopies. When our steps pause beside an ancient cliff, we hear the trickle of water falling, an old melody meant for those who listen. That sound leads us to the final runestroke in the Galdr, Dagaz, the sign of dawn and new beginnings. In the faint light, the rune appears on the stone surface, signalling that the journey through the fairy realm has only begun, and we will soon touch the deepest secrets of Weird. The Rune Moot Gathering, where runic wizards, the keepers of ancient knowledge's flame, meet beneath the canopy of great trees to exchange magic and describe new spirit beasts. The space hums with whispers as they carve runes onto the surface of the carpenter's table, then rub their hands over it to transmit energy. In the circle, an old man with silver hair begins teaching about Draupnir, the powerful ring memorialised in the Prose Edda. Draupnir is not merely jewellery, but carries the fate of abundance. Every 9 full nights, 5 new rings drip from the original, symbolising rebirth and limitless wealth. It is said that when Freyja gave Draupnir to his future master, he believed this blessing would help the family survive drought, war, or famine. The fire crackles, and the smoke of sage blends into the cool air. Each rune master, when carving the Othala rune, the symbol of ancestry and homeland, gently rubs a small charm made of sheepskin, imbuing it with a blessing that the new land about to be settled will be fertile and its people peaceful. The night wind drifts through, carrying murmurs like ancient echoes, tightening the listeners' hearts with firm faith. When the forest's natural clock passes exactly 31 owl calls, the runic wizards fall silent, all gazing up at the clear sky. There the 2 brightest stars, Alphamurk and Vardar, shine down like watchful eyes. Legend says that whenever those 2 stars align parallel, a small gate between Midgard and Alfheim opens just enough for gentle souls to pass through and bring back messages from the fairy realm. A young witch steps forward, holding a small bone charm, lights a candle made of Bodhi on the stone in the centre of the Rune Moot circle. She whispers a Seiðr incantation of just 4 rune characters, making the flame dance into the shape of fairy wings. A horn sounds from afar, signalling that the spirits of the fairy world have heard the invitation. Everyone bows slightly, their hearts full of reverence and hope in the power of the miraculous. In that shimmering space, one can clearly feel the life current of the entire cosmos, from the carved stone runes to the warmth of the candle, from the breath of each wizard to the song passed down for 1,000 years. Midgard and Alfheim, though separate, are intertwined through each symbol and ritual, so that each person returns carrying new baggage, both knowledge and faith, ready to continue on life's path. Thor, son of Odin, and Jörd, was not only humanity's protector against demons, but also the envoy of thunder, bringing favourable rain and winds. Legend says that when Thor was still a child, Loki, the trickster god, once made off with his toy hammer. In a burst of anger, Thor accidentally unleashed a lightning bolt that tore the night and created a thunderous explosion like war drums. Odin saw it, understood that the blood of thunder had seeped into his son's very bones, and tasked the dwarves Sindri and Brokkr with forging an extraordinary weapon. In the subterranean forge of Svartalfheim, fires burned hot, hammers shattered silver steel, and molten veins rumbled. Sindri and Brokkr skillfully combined refined lightning drawn from a meteoric source with native steel to create Mjölnir, a rough dense block of metal containing the fury of storms. When completed, the hammer not only returned to the thrower's hand, but also, whenever thrown skyward, emitted pale white flashes that ripped the dark and awakened courage in human hearts. The Norse believed that whenever Thor swung the hammer across the horizon, its spirit tore through black clouds, leaving faint trails of light, marks of Mjölnir's passage. The clash of its head against the clouds became booming thunder, echoing through mountains and the depths of seas. Sailors warned one another. When the thunder sounds like approaching footsteps, kneel, clasp hands, and pray for Thor to shield the ship from tempests and waves. Under the star-filled sky we glimpse Fenrir, the giant wolf, an implacable enemy of the gods. Myth says Thor and Fenrir faced each other many times in the secret war between the Aesir and the Jotun. On a bitter night, when Fenrir rose from the frozen ridges like a spectre of death, Thor raced with lightning, hurling Mjölnir down upon the wolf. The strike roared like 1,000 breaking hammers, and Mjölnir bound Fenrir with Gleipnir, the chain forged by dwarves, soft as silk, yet unbreakable. Fenrir growled. His immense strength could not snap the binding, and only on the day of Ragnarok would he struggle free. On a misty hilltop, sitting beside a flickering fire, we hear the tale of the battle between Thor and Jörmungandr, the world serpent coiled around the ocean. As Ragnarok nears, the two enemies will clash again. Thor rows a small boat through the fog and drizzle, bracing himself as he brings Mjölnir down upon the water. The serpent exhales poison and coils, making the sea froth black. Thor's final blow will slay Jörmungandr, but the earthborn venom the serpent expelled will topple Thor immediately after. In that moment, the sky ruptures in a colossal thunderclap, signalling the end of an old cycle and making way for the miracle of rebirth. The wind passes, chilling the warmth at the fire, and we move toward Lake Eldjudnir, the border between the human world and Helheim, the underworld. Steam rises from its inky surface, carrying echoes of past souls. Each droplet reflects flashes of lightning from Mjölnir, decorating the night with fleeting, shimmering light. They say only those with divine blood can see Mjölnir glide across the lake in darkness, bearing hope and protection for humanity. When night thickens, we lift our gaze to the sky and see intertwining green and red auroral bands drawing the map of ancient battles. There the shape of Mjölnir faintly appears among the cosmos, a reminder that power lies not only in weapons, but in an unbowed will. In the icy expanse of Weird, we feel the breath of gods and the echoes of millennia of warfare. To the west, where the Orkney archipelago rises at like jade stones amid the sea, on the wind-worn cliff faces, ancient rocks bear the carvings of ancestors, sail shapes, crescent moons, and dark spiralling circles. The old ones believed those engravings were not mere decoration, but maps guiding the souls of the departed, helping them find their final resting place after journeys through the years. In that vast space, the people of Orkney hold a seasonal transition rite at each beginning of summer. When wildflowers on the cliffs begin to bloom, they gather around the standing stone of Stennis, a towering menhir, as if the guardian of the earth's secrets. The gnarled hands of elders gently stroke the surface of the stone, whispering prayers for fertile fields and calm seas. Children press close to one another, excitedly listening to tales of Magnus the Wanderer, the brave youth who once rowed across oceans seeking the secret seed. the ice flower said to heal any wound. According to legend, the ice flower blooms only on the longest night of the year, when the full moon's light filters through cracks in the rock. Its translucent petals seem made of mist, but are as hard as crystal, emitting a pale blue glow. Gatherers seek the stone frame where Magnus fell. The flower grew from his blood, shining with miraculous life. Brought home, the blossoms are soaked in fragrant mead, distilled into the essence of frost. A precious remedy to heal wounds from wild beasts or soothe the aching hearts of the defeated. Amid the sound of waves and wind whistling through the tent's peak, we hear of migration parties cutting across from Leith to Orkney, carrying copper pots and cloth bundles, searching for land to survive harsh winters. They pitch temporary shelters, learn to weave woolen cloth, endure blizzards, and draw warmth from the earth. On cold, clear nights, when the aurora shimmers overhead, they gather around great fires, softly singing the ancient tune, Veternator, a melody like a gentle lifeblood connecting past and future. The flickering firelight in the elders' eyes seems to trace each wrinkle back to distant memory. They tell of a time when a violent storm swept away most of their belongings. Yet the children preserved a small flask of ice flower-infused mead. Though just a few drops, when shared, everyone felt warmth flood their bodies and clarity sharpen their minds, dispelling exhaustion. Since then, ice flower gin became a symbol of the will to rise above adversity, a reminder that even in extreme cold, healing power endures. Stepping outside the tent, we see wildflowers stretching across the stony ground, once barren, now bursting with life. The cries of gulls fill the air like a hymn welcoming the new day. The murmuring waves bring to mind the prophecy in the prose Edda. When the ice flower fades, the world will enter a new cycle of growth. Yggdrasil will flourish more vibrantly than ever, and humanity will continue, writing the legendary chapters they once thought forgotten. The granite pillars of Valaskjalf, the roofed hall where Odin sits. We leave the Bifrost Bridge and step into a space shimmering as if draped in golden mist. The cold and the scent of juniper mingle, creating an atmosphere both sacred and serene. Before me opens the palace with silver-clad walls carved with scenes of battles, and between them the statues of two ravens, Hugin, meaning thought, and Munin, meaning memory, always perched on Odin's shoulders, eagerly turning their gaze toward the vast horizon. Inside Valaskjalf, the stone floor is smooth like a mirror, reflecting the star-inlaid dome above, throwing wavering rainbow beams. The faint streaks of light seem to move in time with the breath of the gods. Odin, cloaked in a long mantle and wearing a dragon-embossed helmet, sits on his high throne. Before him is the stone table where all major events of the Nine Realms are recorded. The two ravens flap their wings softly, then take flight into the air, producing a caw that echoes like a gentle reminder. We go to gather news, to bring it back to the master. Hugin and Munin cut through the wind, gliding across the Nine Realms with the speed of dreams. Hugin flies with curiosity, casting eyes over forests, mountains and seas, listening to the whispers of ancestors. Munin lingers, tracing the marks of the past where legends have been buried beneath layers of frozen earth. On their backs hang small pouches containing runic scraps, tiny chronicles of mortal bravery, Seiðr magic, and timeless songs. Mid-journey, Hugin lands lightly on a stone parapet in Jotunheim, where the ice giants remain silent before the cosmos. It listens to the breath of earth and stone, gathering word of the coming Thor in spring. Munin, perched at the edge of Mimir's well, sips a drop of wisdom and memorises the image of Odin sacrificing his eye to gain knowledge. All those memories will be brought back, distilled into counsel for humanity. When the ravens return, their silhouettes flicker against the bright canopy of Asgard's sky. They settle on either side of the throne, their black feathers absorbing the golden light and curling smoke. Odin bows his head slightly. One eye is sharp with clarity, the other whole with wonder, intently absorbing every report from his messengers. The beating of wings sounds again, affirming that knowledge and memory are the most enduring powers. In the quiet moment, I look around Valaskjalf and see murals depicting the encounters between gods and humans, from the first offering at the root of Yggdrasil to the awe of villagers hearing Gjallarhorn's horn, all illustrating an inseparable bond. The runes on the stone table seem renewed by the tales of Hugin and Muninho, ready to gift rulers, divine and mortal alike, with lessons of history and future. Exiting the hall, I slowly walk down the long corridor to the balcony, where one can take in the full view of the 9 realms stretched below. A gentle wind carries the scent of Bodhi and the festival smoke of Sumalid, reminding me that no matter how vast power is, the human soul remains the most precious thing. The stories preserved and passed on by Odin's ravens are not mere reports. They are bridges between hearts, helping us understand that in every step, knowledge and memory always light the way. Before the stone throne, the rune-engraved table glows silver, still carrying the warmth of the ravens' tails. Odin runs his hand gently over the surface. The characters slowly sharpen beneath the rainbow light. Birch incense smoke curls around the scene, creating a sacred, focused atmosphere. No one told Odin to speak, but when he tilts his head slightly, his voice rises warm and deep. He invites me closer, to look upon the runes etched in the stone. There lies the rune of no order, the mark of fate not yet revealed. Odin explains that whenever the rune of no order appears in dreams or catches the eye, it means the future is opening a new chapter, for both mortals and gods. It does not obey any law, but is the outcome of free will and striving aspiration. I hear the wind sigh through the frame of the hall, like whispers from the 9 realms. Motes of light sparkle in the air, as if the breath of the wheel of time is turning. Odin says that Hugin and Munin bring back news not only of past and present, but of possibilities not yet realised. The rune of no order is the guiding map, but only those brave enough to embrace uncertainty can read it fully. In the courtyard, Odin's hand slowly adds a small rune stroke beside the inscription, affirming that recording the future is not to control it, but to open a door of hope. Amid the scent of pine and shimmering light, I feel the heartbeat of the cosmos. Every object, every soul contributes to the grand story. Odin looks directly into my eyes and says the next journey lies not only across the 9 realms, but within the heart of each person. Before I leave the hall, Odin gives me a charm carved with the rune Uruz, representing inner strength and resolve. He tells me that if I face a difficult crossroads, I should touch the charm to remember that I always have the power to rise above adversity. The soft core of Hugin and Munin still echoes, a reminder that even when the path is hard, silent companions carry knowledge back. As I descend, I look up at the Bifrost rainbow hanging in the sky, its light gently fading with the early hour. The rainbow is not just a passage between worlds, but an invisible thread linking past, present and future. Today's dream will take me to unexplored lands, where sagas are still unwritten, characters have yet to appear, and secrets await that I alone can continue to awaken. Beneath the forest canopy, the grass glitters with dewdrops like jewels. They say the Álfar are unlike anywhere else. The space here is warm, even in the bitterest winter, and the lilting sound of the harper echoes along the paths. The music twines like the voice of underground springs, guiding travellers through rune-carved leaf portals, each bearing the name of an Álfar child, a symbol of hope and vitality. I follow the clear little stream, stepping over moss-covered stones, hearing whispered blessings while feeling warm energy rising from the earth. Legend says that in the middle of the Álfar Valley sits a large, heart-shaped crystal stone called Hjarta Stein. When the mythic drum sounds, the Álfar gather there, placing their hands on the surface to receive the golden blood, the pure light distilled from the dawn of creation. The golden blood, the stories say, originated from Ymir's blood when the gods birthed the universe. It blended with sap and vapour from Mimir's well, forming an endless life force that nourishes the Álfar and all 9 realms. Each year on the summer solstice night, when the sun stands at its apex, the Álfar hold the Blotar Hjarta festival. They light golden candles around the stone and sing the hymn Solhjarta to invoke the flow of the world's spirit. Approaching the crystal stone, I see fine threads of light like veil running along its surface, shimmering as if drops of sunlight had settled there. A female Álfar greets me, her hair gleaming silver, her pointed ears tilted gently. She places a small crystal in my hand, saying that when I feel weary or lost, I should lay it on my chest so that its life drop will flow into me, warming both body and spirit. Farther off, flickering fires from Álfar tents glow like stars in the night. Harper melodies and soft songs lift the heart, making everyday worries fade. I pause beside a small lake, where the crystal snail, Oxrun, is quietly crawling onto the rocks, leaving a trail of sparkling light. They say whoever touches its shell gains the ability to see past and future intertwine for a moment. As dusk falls and the valley is dyed in dreamy purple, the Álfar gather around stone hearths, telling the tale of how the harper was born, from a dry rune branch lit by Odin, forming runic strings. When the first melody sounded, the birds in the forest fell silent, and a warm breeze carried the music across the 9 realms, heralding the Álfar's invitation to an endless concert. We walk along the trail strewn with crystal shards, where the light of the golden blood still clings, sparkling beneath every step. No need for a marked path. If you listen to the lilting song of the harper, you will arrive at the hidden forge of Völundr, the legendary smith of the Álfar. The workshop does not sit in delicate cloth tents, but hides on the hillside, carved with axes, hammers, and gleaming blades, an invitation to those who carry the fire of creation in their hearts. As we draw near, the steady ring of hammer on anvil reverberates, and heat rises from the furnace mouth. Völundr stands by the blaze, stern in countenance yet with warm eyes. His hands stained with coal, he pulls newly forged silver bars through the crystalline life force the Álfar have offered. He invites me to sit, to place my palm on the hot steel he's shaping, and I feel a faint electric warmth spreading, a sensation as if the story of the cosmos flows through the veins of my hand. Amid the hot smoke and the rhythm of pounding metal, Völundr speaks of divine weapons, from Gram, the sword that felled the dragon Fafnir, to the shield Skjöldr, capable of reflecting enemy sorcery. Each artifact is tempered from a fusion of elements: the fire of Muspellheim, the ice of Niflheim, the vapour of Mimir, and the light of the golden blood. The Álfar believe that owning a treasure forged here grants not only power, but also preserves a pure heart and unyielding will. Leaving the forge, we follow a path through a grove of pale-trunked trees, an eerily peaceful scene. Among them whispers the Mirror River, a small stream winding around roots, its surface clear and still like glass. Legend says that when you place your hand on its water, you don't just see your current reflection, but glimpses of future moments, choices not yet made. It is not a prophecy of fate, but a gentle reminder that every action today sketches the picture of tomorrow. When the lowest cloud layer drifts across the treetops, the Álfar hold the Álfablot festival, a rite of thanks to the deities who brought them the golden blood and granted them the miracle of survival. They lay crystal wreaths from Hjarta Stein on a small riverbank plot and lift their voices in the lullaby Glodjarta in gratitude. As the assembly closes their eyes, a profound silence settles. Then little shafts of light emit from the crystals, as if reflecting the smile of the source of life. In that misty, reverent scene, I hear echoes from the past, prophetic verses about an era to come when Álfar and humans must lean on one another to weather the final storm. They say the golden blood is more than life force. It is the flame of unity and shared knowledge, passed down through generations. As night deepens, I leave the crystal woods carrying the small crystal in my palm. The harper's music and the songs of Álfablot follow like a gentle farewell. High above, the aurora flares in waves of violet and teal, sending a message that the journey is not over. We must continue onward to more distant lands, to the misty marshes to meet the ancient spirits and hear the secret of the Night of 1,000 Mists. Thick mist churns over the surface of the marsh like a silver curtain, veiling the horizon. We follow the damp trail, stepping over protruding roots, to reach the misty boglands that the Álfar whisper is the dwelling of the ancient spirits. The space is so cold and silent that even footsteps dissolve into the low moan of wind through the reeds. In the heart of the bog, an ancient cypress spreads its canopy like an umbrella. Its intertwined roots form a small elevated refuge. The Álfar say this was once where Völundr took shelter to recover after his trial by Muspellheim's fire, and the echo of his hammering still lingers in the haze. The sharp scent of resin mingles with damp earth, creating an atmosphere both mysterious and vividly alive. When I softly call the name Ancient Spirit, whispers spread across the marsh, fragments of ancestral souls who once lived on this land before the Ice Age, now merging with the breath of soil and water. They appear in faint patches of light within the fog, slender forms with deep, inviting eyes, as if beckoning travellers to sit quietly and listen. The trickle of water through cracks leads me to the Night of 1,000 Eyes, the moment when each dewdrop on a leaf becomes a tiny mirror reflecting the past. As full darkness settles, I see in every minuscule droplet a different scene. A fishing family beneath the aurora, an Alpha maiden singing lullabies by the Myrthra tree, and Völundr hidden in the smoke of his forge. Suddenly, wind rises. The droplets tremble and fall, like thousands of glittering eyes, seeing through the hopes and fears in the heart. An ancient spirit materializes in the mist, robes silver as dawn light, long hair streaming. Without speaking, they extend a hand towards me, imparting warmth and safety amid the cold bog. In that moment, I understand these spirits do more than preserve memory. They uphold a promise that each generation will carry the land and its traditions forward. Far off, the harper of the Álfar from the Marshvale plays softly, a melody weaving through the fog, guiding spirits and travellers into harmony. I sit beneath the cypress, close my eyes to the echoing tune, and in my mind appears the faintly glowing crystal seed of the golden blood, signalling that the life force of the progenitors still flows. As the mist thins with the first light of day, the ancient spirits dissolve one by one into the air, yielding the space back to the weak sun. I bow in thanks, laying a crystal wreath upon the root, a token of gratitude and loyalty to tradition. Though the chill still clings to skin, I carry the warmth of ages in my heart, stepping onward to the next land, the ice-bound Isles, where the story of the undying flame awaits. I follow the trail of the sea wolf onto the wooden deck, gliding gently across the icy lake. Blocks of milky white ice rise from the water, like natural fortresses guarding the secrets of rock and earth. The silence is broken only by the steady dip of oars and distant cries of gulls. Far off, upright stone monoliths emerge from the sea, looking like thousands of frozen blades, watching over the hidden passage. When the boat moors at a small island, I step ashore with a stirring in my chest. The ground beneath is darkened, mixed with ash and shattered rock from ancient eruptions. Warmth rises in waves from the earth, making the air less bitter than expected. Islanders say that deep within the mountain, Svartheim lies a blazing cavern, where the undying flame never dies, even though frost covers the outside. I follow a narrow path of black stone, passing fissures that spew ash, until I reach the cave mouth. Light from reflecting ice filters in, causing the surrounding snow forest to glow with a faint blue. In that moment I hear the mountain's breath, the rumble of sediment, and the slow pulse of fire within. The islanders call this place Eldrum, the heart of fire, and tell that the flame is the remnant Usutar, the fire giant, left after the first battle between fire and ice. Stepping into the cave, the air gradually warms. The walls are coated in glossy soot, casting red glows like phoenix eyes. At the centre, a flame flickers among smouldering stones, its heat brushing my face. The firekeeper, a silver-haired, sun-darkened elder, welcomes me and places a glowing ember into my palm. He invites me to lay a finger on it, to channel the undying flame into my veins, to feel the power it brings, courage, fervour, and an unyielding will. Amid the dancing sparks, the elder tells the legend of Svartheim volcano. When Muspellheim collided with the frozen land, Seiðr cast forth endless embers, melting all obstacles. Fire spheres soared into the sky, forming a mystical fire arc, a blazing red streak across the icy night. If fortunate, a traveller might catch a fragment of that flame and keep it in their heart, like a candle that never goes out, even in the fiercest storm. Leaving the cave, I feel my body still warm though the mist has returned. On the black stone shore, tiny ice flowers sprout from cracks, traces of the golden blood once soaked deep into the earth. People believe that thanks to the warmth of the undying flame, those sprouts can awaken amid the barren rock, a testament to nature's fierce vitality. As sunset paints the sky pink, I return to the dock, carrying the glowing ember as a keepsake. The gentle lapping of waves sounds like a hymn of thanks to the undying flame among the icebound isles. In my dream, I ride a fire steed across snow and ice, the flickering light illuminating an adventure that is not yet over. Thick mist rolls over the surface of the marsh like a silver curtain, veiling the horizon. We follow the damp trail, stepping over protruding roots, to reach the misty boglands that the Álfar whisper is the dwelling of the ancient spirits. The space is so cold and silent that even footsteps dissolve into the low moan of wind through the reeds. In the heart of the bog, an ancient cypress spreads its canopy like an umbrella. Its intertwined roots form a small, elevated refuge. The Álfar say this was once where Völundr took shelter to recover after his trial by Muspellheim's fire, and the echo of his hammering still lingers in the haze. The sharp scent of resin mingles with damp earth, creating an atmosphere both mysterious and vividly alive. When I softly call the name Ancient Spirit, whispers spread across the marsh, fragments of ancestral souls who once lived on this land before the Ice Age, now merging with the breath of soil and water. They appear in faint patches of light within the fog, slender forms with deep, inviting eyes, as if beckoning travellers to sit quietly and listen. The trickle of water through cracks leads me to the night of 1,000 eyes, the moment when each dewdrop on a leaf becomes a tiny mirror reflecting the past. As full darkness settles, I see in every minuscule droplet a different scene: a fishing family beneath the aurora, an Alpha maiden singing lullabies by the Mjölnir tree, and Völundr hidden in the smoke of his forge. Suddenly, wind rises. The droplets tremble and fall like thousands of glittering eyes, seeing through the hopes and fears in the heart. An ancient spirit materializes in the mist, robes silver as dawn light, long hair streaming. Without speaking, they extend a hand towards me, imparting warmth and safety amid the cold bog. In that moment, I understand these spirits do more than preserve memory. They uphold a promise that each generation will carry the land and its traditions forward. Far off, the harper of the Álfar from the Marshvale plays softly, a melody weaving through the fog, guiding spirits and travellers into harmony. I sit beneath the cypress, close my eyes to the echoing tune, and in my mind appears the faintly glowing crystal seed of the golden blood, signalling that the life force of the progenitors still flows. As the mist thins with the first light of day, the ancient spirits dissolve one by one into the air, yielding the space back to the weak sun. I bow in thanks, laying a crystal wreath upon the root, a token of gratitude and loyalty to tradition. Though the chill still clings to skin, I carry the warmth of ages in my heart, stepping onward to the next land, the icebound isles, where the story of the undying flame awaits. At first light, when pale pink light spreads over the sea, I leave the festival fire and board the boat bound for the sacred isle of Solheim, mysterious island famed across the north, where fragments of heaven firestone are said to have fallen from the stars. The waves roll evenly, the southern wind carries the warmth of a new day, and excitement stirs within me to uncover miracles amid the ice. Solheim appears ahead, veiled in thin mist. The shoreline is black like cooled lava, interspersed with patches of scorched grass smelling faintly of mercury from beneath. Islanders greet me with deep-toned horn calls, inviting me ashore where their wooden boats sway. They reverently call the island Heimsklokke, the world bell, believing its resonance once shook the oceans when the heaven firestones struck earth. The path leading to the island's centre is paved with volcanic rock, flanked by towering natural stone pillars reminiscent of ancient columns. Strange metallic scratches mark the surface, scars of previous impacts from the heaven firestones. The keeper of legends, a stern old woman with eyes bright as stars, recounts that on the night the stars fell, a burning meteoric stone cut through the shower of meteors and slammed into the ground with a deafening blast. Since then, the universe's charged essence has concentrated here, transforming the black rocks into sources of extraordinary energy. In the stone plaza, I find 3 wooden chests shaped like secret reliquaries. On their lids, the runes Uruz and Sawilo intertwine, daring any bold enough to open them. When the old woman taps the lid lightly with a deer bone hammer, the sound reverberates across the island like a low thunder. I place my hand on the chest and feel warmth seep into my fingertips. That is the life current of the heaven firestone, ready to surge through the grain of the wood. She carefully opens the chest to the rhythm of the island's horn drums. Inside, heaven firestones glitter in ember-orange dust, nestled among ash and volcanic debris. As the slanted sunrise pierces through, the first stone flickers, emitting tiny sparks that trace the first streaks of light in the sky. Cheers erupt across the island, for everyone understands that in this moment the covenant between earth and heavens has manifested. The old woman gives me a small fragment, instructing that I place it atop the undying furnace at Eldrum to fuse 2 fires, the blaze of Muspellheim and the starfire, yielding transcendent power. I carry the stone back to the Svartheim volcano cavern and set it beside the glowing ember. The flame surges, shifting from orange-red to golden brilliance, as if blending the essence of earth and sky. Smoke rises carrying resinous and stardust aromas, exuding a fragrance like celestial jade. In that moment I feel my body heat, my heart beating in sync with the volcano's breath, and I imagine the ancestors releasing their spirits into the night sky, offering the heaven firestone to safeguard humanity. Islanders say whoever carries this stone in their heart can heal physical wounds and dispel darkness within the soul, for it holds the eternal energy of the cosmos. Leaving the fire cave, I look up as the sun climbs high, piercing the ash clouds and casting shimmering rays like millions of crystals. On the blue sea, drifting icebergs seem to glow again, embracing the light of the new day. The sound of waves and cries of seabirds weave an endless symphony, a reminder that no matter how fierce the storms, the power of nature and human faith will always rise anew. My footsteps move slowly across the thin ice, the clink of stone under my boots guiding me toward a low hill where the locals gather each winter. There they raise a large stone circle called Skjaldborg as a bulwark to protect the spirits of the hills when heavy snow falls. Within the stone fortress, an old man bends over and draws rune characters on the ice. Isa, representing cold ice, and Ehwaz, symbolising the enduring yew. When he finishes, each stroke emits a faint purple glow, like a portal slightly ajar into another realm. Horn drums sound. The villagers form 2 lines, holding staffs carved with dragon scales and clusters of ice blossoms. They sing the song Frostvedder, the ice dance chant, its rising and falling melody like the breath of the winter wind. The men's voices roll like thunder, while the midwives hum lullabies, guiding children and elders alike into the stone circle. As the music blends with the wind, pale veils of snowy mist appear, ice spirits of the ancestors, manifesting as faint figures gliding over the snow. They speak no words, merely stand as if yearning, waiting for new generations to sing this song, keeping tradition alive and preserving the memory of stubborn resilience. The villagers offer one another cups of mead mixed with crystal snow essence, drops of liquor dissolving in the chill, producing a sweet taste like a promise to shelter each other through hardship. In the centre, a small fire flares with dried yew, its bluish flame glowing low. When the tiny ice blossoms placed around the stump ignite, steam rises like the breath of demons. Yet from that smoke, little sparks leap like minute butterflies, signs that winter magic is present. The rune wizards light crystal candles around the hearth, then in turn tap the stone with rune staffs, awakening each deeply carved ice symbol on the central rock. The rune tapping ceases, and the space settles. A voice drifts faintly from afar, old skaldic verse, inviting the ice spirits to speak the truth of the harsh season. That ice is not merely cold, but a protective armour for hidden life awaiting spring. As the voice fades into the wind, each flake trembles and falls like crystal tears. And in the dim light I see the ice spirits slowly gathering around the fire, murmuring harmonies in response. The villagers believe that when the longest night of the year passes, the power of the ice dance chant will end, and the Thor will open the path to spring. Whoever keeps a fragment of an ice blossom not yet melted will carry warmth and courage to begin again, weaving new hope across the unforgiving frozen land. When the song finally dies, I bow in thanks to the ancestors, pluck a small ice petal, and press it into my palm before departing. On the descent, rune-carved stones of fidelity guide the way, as if advising that the power of ice lies not only in its chill, but in its capacity to regenerate, in persistent endurance. Carry the chant and that ice petal into your dreams, so that in sleep you see yourself become an ice flower blooming in winter, brilliant amid the blizzard. As the thick night falls over the snowland, I track the half-submerged paw prints on the thin ice, searching for the keeper of the night in the snow hunter's domain. No star appears, only the dim, cold glow of the aurora seeping through the branches, as if challenging any traveller brave enough to face the darkness. Amid the white expanse, silhouettes of wooden tents with thatched roofs cluster around stone hearths at the forest's edge. A group of snow hunters, hair frosted, skin weathered by wind, gathers around a crackling fire. They ride long wooden sleds over ridges, string bone bows, and hunt ice spirits, precious prey that warms both flesh and soul in the bitter cold. With dry laughter, the elder signals me forward and hands me a frost-carved wooden mask, an heirloom engraved with the names of ancestors. The mask is coated in thin ice. Its intricate patterns depict auroral glows and conceal the wearer's heat, hiding them from ice spirits. When I put it on, the world shifts. Snow falls slower, the wind stills, and oppressive darkness becomes a thin, permeable veil. A metallic flute sounds from the howling valley, the signal of the keeper of the night, the recluse sage hiding in the snowy woods. He appears beneath a pine, draped in fox fur, holding a rune staff of frost. Legend says that on the longest nights, he plays his flute to call ice spirits back to Skjaldborg to hear the winter protection song, and those touched by the melody are granted endurance to survive any cold. He invites me into the rune circle on the granite altar, placing the frostwood mask upon the icy shrine. The flute hums softly. Long notes entwine with the wind, turning falling snowflakes into multicoloured sparks. The space stills. Only the flute's trilling and a quiet heartbeat remain. Ice spirits from everywhere gather, their faint forms gliding through rock fissures, pausing to heed the call. When the song ends, the keeper of the night bows and gives me a drop of water from the tip of his rune staff, condensed essence of frost. He says this drop can banish darkness in the heart and grant steadiness amid inner storms. Before parting, he emphasises that even in the harshest darkness, a flicker of light hides. If one holds fast to belief, one will never lose the way. I leave Skjaldborg carrying the frostwood mask and the precious rune drop. Down the pass, snow blankets the trail, but my spirit is warmed. In dreams I will hear the flute echoing through the woods and see auroral light stretch across the dark. reminding me that even in severe cold, faith and courage shine like lanterns guiding the path. In the still moment after the flute of the Keeper of the Night, the thick mist on the mountain pass suddenly stirs like a slow-flowing waterfall. Layers of fog rise, then swirl around me, tracing indistinct shapes. Wings of icebergs, creaking runic tree trunks, shadows gliding through rock fissures. Within that haze appears the slender form of the Frost Angel, the supreme being of the North's winter. She pauses atop a massive ice slab at the pass's peak, arms cradling a crystal staff, eyes shimmering like pure ice mirrors. Light from the staff casts a cold beam, clearing the fog before a rune-carved cliff face. Solhvardr, the sun's curse, both sheltering and imprisoning warmth from spilling into the winter realm. Her voice is cold as north wind. Only by undoing the curse will the sun return its former warmth, and the ice and snow yield to awakening life. The Frost Angel extends the crystal staff toward me. Snowflakes settle on the fractured shaft, forming a chain of tiny lights. She intones the final Galdr, the spell whispered only by the freezing wind. Solhvardr Bradna, Hjarta Hitta Vakna. The sun's curse melts, the heart of warmth awakens. As the last syllable falls, the staff flares blindingly. The fog before the cliff dissolves, revealing a star-shaped crack, a passage leading into the mountain's core. I step through the fissure, descending a corridor of dark metallic stone, where remnants of flame from the heaven firestone glitter. The sound of the undying fire echoes, mingling with the soft groan of melting ice. At the bottom, I stand before a vast subterranean pool, its surface still and smooth like fresh ice. Light from the crystal staff pours down into its depths, making the water glow with a warm radiance. The Frost Angel kneels, scoops a ladle of water from the pool, and pours it over the rune-carved face of Solhvardr. Droplets scatter into the crack, breaking the ice into fragments, and the stone trembles like a swelling heart. When the last chunk of ice shatters, a warm red light rises, spreading through the corridor and climbing back up toward the pass's summit. Outside, the fir groves sway. Snow begins to fall as gentle rain, blurring the stark outlines of frozen fields. The angel smiles. Her crystalline wings dissolve like mist, and she vanishes with the light. Now the early winter sun peeks from behind the ridge, pale rays piercing through clouds, kindling warmth in the hearts of travellers. Snow still lingers but no longer rains absolutely. Fragile warmth weaves through, promising the approach of spring. Before leaving the pass, I pick up a shard of crystal from the broken staff, feeling its faint warmth drip into my palm. It is proof of the angel's vow, that even the harshest cold cannot stop the power of hope and love. Birds return to the woods, thawing streams murmur softly, like a symphony guiding the coming season. Morning mist still clings to every branch as I step back to the great Yggdrasil, where the 9 realms converge in the comforting embrace of the massive trunk. The fire in the hollowed root's ashes has long gone out, giving way to fresh green shoots pushing through the ancient cracks. Gentle dawn light filters through the leaves, painting the ground with countless shimmering patterns, like tiny crystals still holding the life drop of a resurrected nature. In every direction, from the cold fir forests of Jotunheim to the fragile ice flower meadows of the Northern Isles, humans and mythic beings alike are gathering to return. The divine hoofbeats of Odin echo softly through the branches, the sound of Sleipnir carrying envoys from all corners, bearing seeds of the future from the 9 realms. Villagers around Lake Mjölnir, with leftover shamrock bundles, light incense of 3-leaf grass, and offer thanks for the quiet winter that has ended. In that space, Thor appears beside Yggdrasil, Mjölnir draped in soft silver light, thunder rumbling in his chest like a vow of protection. Freyja steps forward, her fox fur cloak billowing, smiling bright as morning honeysuckle. Hugin and Munin alight gently on 2 large branches, their wings stirring slightly, bringing news of courage and memories tested by trial. Everyone gathers, from the dwarves of Svartalfheim to the luminous Álfar, forming a circle of life around the tree's base. The Elder of Solheim places a crystal ember of heaven firestone beside the frost rune of the Keeper of the Night, and they blend into a radiance of gold, red and blue. The harper music of the Álfar from the crystal lake rises like the vibration of a cosmic string. The light angel quietly releases the last crystal blossoms at the root, symbolizing hope that fades and blooms again, defying the cold of the past. Yggdrasil suddenly trembles. Its ancient bark parts and massive roots unfurl, exuding shimmering golden sap. A low sound rises like running water, curling through each root and spreading across the world. This is a new heartbeat, a life pulse awakening, marking the beginning of the rebirth cycle of the Nine Realms. All beings turn their gaze to the trunk, where prismatic light from the sap combines with the first sunlight, forming a halo bridging sky and earth. A runic witch intones the final spell. Eikthrunr awakens, Nidhugger ceases bleeding, Ginnungagap seals its mouth, the old world's sorrow ends. The Gulder vibrates, sharp incense smoke winds around everything like an invisible web, tightening the bond between gods and humans. When the last note fades, Yggdrasil emits brilliant rays, illuminating even the snow atop its heights and the frozen lake below. Before the tree, everyone listens as leaves rustle like the ancestors' whispers. Continue writing the chronicle. Pass on belief and hold fast to hope. Having endured trials from ice to starfire, from darkness to primordial Ymir, I realise the journey is not to conquer the world, but to awaken the power inside each heart. Every crystal petal, flame, and breath of ice is a piece connecting past, present, and future. As the prismatic light dims, leaving glittering specks on the ground, I close my eyes gently, feeling the warmth of the ancient sap seeping through my skin. Dreams await on Viking sails cutting waves, with flutes calling frozen souls. Amid the enchanted weird woods and the undying volcano peak of Svartheim, let the spirit loosen and dream of the 9 new realms forming beneath the resurrected roots of Yggdrasil. Night had fallen silent, only the silver light of the new moon filtering through Yggdrasil's canopy, as all travellers and gods gradually gathered around the root of the resurrected tree. The air was warm and sweet, like mead blended with the scent of resin. Crystal flames were lit high like enormous candles, illuminating the radiant faces of those attending the festival of the 9 Realms rebirth. Villagers from Mývatn to Solheim, smiths from Svartalfheim, the luminous Álfar, together with the Aesir and Vanir gods, all formed a circle around Yggdrasil. Horn drums sounded in rich rises and falls, opening the rite of presenting the drop of knowledge, a small crystal that gathers the essence of the entire journey. Witch Letha brought it to the centre of the circle, placing the crystal on the newly unfurling leaf, as if that seed of life were being awakened within the tree. Then ice flowers from Skjaldborg were placed among the lush trunks, symbolising the blended strength of ice and fire, of trial and restoration. The smith Völundr stepped forward and placed the old sword Gram, a symbol of heroic past, beneath the tree, reminding everyone that any glory begins with a gruelling journey. Moonlight dimmed as the saga of the 9 Realms was intoned with harper and ice flute. The tales of each trial passed, from Thor's thunder chariot to the moment Odin traded an eye in pursuit of wisdom. The song combined with the crystal flames formed a 5-coloured trail of light, dancing along Yggdrasil's trunk, as if each branch were coming back to life after many bitter winters. Within that mythic scene, Heimdall raised Gjallarhorn toward the 4 directions and blew a blast announcing the beginning of a new era. The horn echoed through the 9 realms, calling the souls of travellers back into the world, bearing the crystal drop of knowledge, to sow wisdom, courage, and hope in every heart. When the horn fell quiet, Odin appeared amid the circle of light, placed his hand on Yggdrasil, and softly whispered the final Gulder. 9 realms 1, 1 realm 9, the journey unending. the song everlasting. Hearing the Gulder, everyone shared warm laughter and divided the crystals to carry back to distant lands, bringing with them the essence of the journey so that each village, each domain, would hold the power of renewal. The festival closed with crystal fireworks, sparkling beams shooting into the night sky, dissolving like 1,000 newly born stars. Horn drums and harper blended one last time, promising that even if tomorrow's trials come, the human spirit will always be sheltered by faith and heroic memory. As the last crystal fires dimmed, leaving only a faint streak of light from the new moon in the air, all beings still gathered around the gentle base of Yggdrasil. Silence hung heavy, broken only by the rustle of leaves like a whisper. The journey closes, but the legend continues. Common folk knelt, placing their hands on the roots, folding their palms in prayer and sending their vows into the earth and sky. Odin rose slowly, one eye glittering with knowledge, the other holding deep, quiet stillness. He lifted his hand forward, and from his palm flowed a soft silver light. This was the light of relics. The people understood that whoever touched that light would carry in their heart the power of the entire journey: Thor's courage, Odin's wisdom, Freyja's compassion, and the undying hope of the Nine Realms. A representative from each land was chosen, received the light, and passed it on to others, like a network of hope spreading throughout the cosmos. Beside Odin, Freyja stepped forward, her radiance shimmering from the Brisingamen necklace. The goddess gave each clan a small crystal wreath, relics imbued with the energy of love and unity. She spoke, "Love will overcome every cold, and only when we stand shoulder to shoulder will the fire in our hearts remain whole." Each wreath was worn around the neck as a sincere promise between mortals and gods, between past and future. Thor raised Mjölnir high. The thunderous hammer echoed through the space, and the undying faith resounded in the chests of every traveller. Even if darkness thickens, lightning will tear through black clouds so that the light of truth may pierce. When the hammer struck down, earth and sky trembled in a deep rhythm, reminding that power does not reside solely in weapons, but in an unbowed, resolute will. In the circle of light, Heimdall blew the final blast on Gjallarhorn, signalling the end of the old cycle and the beginning of a new era. The horn's sound rang out to distant realms, awakening souls and igniting in each heart a bright flame of hope. Immediately after, Hugin and Munin unflapped their wings and took flight, carrying the songs of every land. Continue the story, keep the flame alive. When the divine rites concluded, the people lingered longer in their kneeling, pouring their full sincerity into their prayers, that the world might always move under justice, courage, and love. Crystal lights bloomed on new branches, falling like droplets of golden rain, each containing a blessing: peace, prosperity, and unbroken faith. Before parting, the Aesir and Vanir gods raised the sacred mead cup together, drinking a sip to bind the two worlds. The clink of cups rang in rhythm, like a farewell melody, full of longing for reunion. Villagers lifted their cups too, exchanging warm looks, knowing that even in parting, the bond between humanity and the divine would never break. As the sky softened to pale violet marking the coming dawn, everyone quietly returned to their own homelands, carrying relics, carrying the story, carrying the flame of belief. On the road home, they would tell their children about the wondrous journey, from the root of Yggdrasil, of the Nine Realms to the Rainbow Bridge Bifrost, from the undying fire cave to the misty boglands, from the starfire to the miracle of thawing ice. Each tale would lend strength to the next generation. And then when the next night quietly fell, the stars would blink like a reminder that the story never truly ends. Anywhere, so long as a heart yearns and a foot dares to step, humans will always find the legend, and the spirits of their ancestors will watch over and protect them. The journey has carried me across the 9 mythic realms, from the enchanted Veered forest, the shimmering lake Mývatn, to the undying flame within the mountain Svartheim, from the radiant rainbow of Bifrost to the mysterious Night of 1,000 Eyes, from the ice-bound Isles of Solheim, where the heaven firestones fell, to the Rebirth Festival beneath the restored root of Yggdrasil. Now I have witnessed the power of courage, wisdom, and love. Those invisible treasures that every being, whether Aesir or Vanir god, luminous Álfar or ancient spirit, guards and passes on. I have seen Mjölnir cleave thunderclouds, Draupnir drip 1,000 rings, Hugin and Munin carry news across all 9 realms, and the heat of crystal embers fused with starfire ignite hope in the soul. But above all, this journey is a testament that no matter how brutal the cold, no matter how dense the darkness, human faith and aspiration always find their way back. Every crystal, every rune branch, every song, and every Galder is a marker reminding us we are not alone. From primordial Ymir to a future yet unwritten, the spirits of our ancestors watch over, bless and inspire the footsteps of those who dare. Now as you gently close your eyes, carry with you the warmth of fire and the light of the rainbow, letting your dreams become sails that carry you to new horizons. The legendary tale of the North never truly ends. It lives on in the heart of every traveller, in the stories passed down through generations, and in the breath of the northern wind singing its undying song, wishing you peace and calm, so that each dream is painted in mythic colours, and every dawn is the birth song of a new journey. Continue the unfolding of the story from the beginning of the video. As the last bolt of sunset painted the sky, pink faded, the ground trembled under the feet of thousands of warriors. The battle among the Norse gods erupted fully on the wasteland of Ashvik, a shattered plain at the foot of Yggdrasil. Smoke and fire choked the air, the scent of burning metal and the greasy tang of roasting meat ripped through the silence that had been. The first horn drums rolled out from the Aesir camp, calling the fighters to arms. Row upon row of silver armour glittered under the stars, banners bearing Thor's hammer, Mjölnir, and Odin's ravens fluttering. They strode through rune-carved stone gates, hands tight on hammer shafts and spear hafts. In their ears the war chant, Thor Vega Ollum Ovina Sinum. Thor will destroy all his enemies, echoed. Across the field, Vanir and Jotun forces joined ranks as steam rose from frozen moats. Freyja rode at the forefront in her fox fur chariot, wielding a glowing runic staff of Seiðr, while waves of silver serpentine magic twisted through the air. Vanir warriors clad in owl feather cloaks wielded veiled nets of enchantment, their eyes flashing with resolve to protect fair weather and the livelihood of the harvest. The first lightning ripped through the cloud cover. Thor roared, his roar reverberating like mountains collapsing. Mjölnir flared with a silver strike, hurtling between the lines, carving a brief rainbow of fire before crashing into the earth, turning the frozen trench water into rising steam. Thor's steps crushed the ice, cracked the ground, and enemy ranks were forced back beneath the pressure of thunder. Amid the hail of projectiles and sorcery, Fenrir, the colossal wolf, broke free of Gleipnir and surged into the Aesir ranks. Its shadow moved like wind, jaws bared with enormous fangs. Tyr, forgetting the agony of his missing hand, lunged and hurled his spear straight into Fenrir's jaw, piercing the beast's hide. Fenrir only hissed, whipped its massive neck, and sent Tyr sprawling into mud and rubble. The Vanir front was no less chaotic. From afar, Jörmungandr unleashed titanic waves, seawater spraying into a misty arch before crashing down onto the enemy lines. Freyja swung his sword, each stroke sending crystalline sprays of light into the air, but the ice Jotun, under the sea serpent's command, continued to coil, blurring the line between ally and foe for those watching. Behind them, the dwarf army, axes and small hammers sharp, slipped between the two sides, spreading runic explosives across the ground. Repeated detonations shattered ice and stone, red flames spouting skyward, and the narrow corridors around Yggdrasil's route trembled with the rhythm of the assault. In the moment that seemed the most chaotic, Odin appeared atop Sleipnir. His ravens Hugin and Munin circled scouting, gathering intelligence. He raised his head high, his face stern like carved stone, lifted Gungnir, the unbreakable spear, and shouted the Sepimninhir incantation. Valhalla ek Kalla. I call Valhalla. The cry rang through the Nine Realms, summoning countless fallen warriors who stepped across Bifrost and returned to the battlefield. The warriors of Valhalla rose, figures in blazing golden armour descending like a meteor shower, shouting thunderously. They smashed the Vanir Jotun formations, clearing a path for the Aesir to thrust into the heart of the fight. Mjölnir collided with Gungnir. Fire and thunder fused, lightning blazing across the night like otherworldly marauders. That chaotic tableau held until the sky paled to grey. Frozen rivers began to thaw. Embers of smouldering fire flared and then cooled. The battle eased for a breath. Soldiers hurriedly regrouped the remnants, ice and flame alike waiting for the next command. And in that brief quiet, the question of the Nine Realms' fate remained unresolved, for the choosers of the slain lurked still in the shadows, watching, waiting for the decisive moment. Smoke and ash billowed up thick, staining the night over Ashvik in a leaden haze. While men still wiped blood from blades and reforged swords in dying fires, suddenly the horn drum sounded again, urging the next wave of assault. From the foot of the mountain, the semi-divine ranks of the choosers of the slain emerged like living darkness. They bore no banners, only long black cloaks, eyes glowing like embers. Each step left a bruise on the snow, and in their hands were black blades that drank in light. Thor roared, summoning Mjölnir once more. White lightning flashed and shattered into 100 shards, becoming streaks of storm sweeping across the field. Yet even before those bolts, the shadowy figures slipped through like wind in cracks, closing in on the Aesir lines. Odin lowered Gungnir, his tactical commands cutting and relentless. Strike straight into the heart of the darkness. Give them no chance to blend in. The order thundered, drowning out the war cries. The Aesir, having caught their breath, flipped shields, passed spears and surged toward the enemy. Thor's Mjölnir spun, forming a vortex of storm that sliced space. But another lethal force, pitch black, suddenly coiled around the Stormbringer's arm. Freyja targeted the centre of the enemy formation, lightly brushing her Seiðr staff and whispering prayers that wove the cloak of illusions. Phantasms of Aesir appeared, sowing confusion among the foes. For a moment, the choosers of the slain lost their orientation, stumbling into the ice monument, heads striking the stone with grinding cracks. Yet the killing intent did not cease. From the enemy ranks, a towering figure, resembling primal Ymir, loomed, wielding an axe plated in ice, cooling the air instantly to biting cold. The giant bellowed, swinging the axe in a wide arc, freezing an entire trench and halting the forward advance. Tyr, the god of justice, did not falter. Numb from his earlier wound, he crawled forward, hurled the old braided Gleipnir shield into Ymir's grasp. The dwarf-woven bands twisted around the giant's arm, eliciting a pained growl. Seizing the opening, Tyr lunged, cleaving the bindings, then fell back into the mud and snow, gasping for breath. Suddenly, the ice serpents under Jörmungandr, eyes red like fire, slithered from the frozen moat, rising above the ranks. Dozens of heads gaped, exhaling white venomous mist, forcing the Aesir to retreat. Thor threw himself into the coil of serpents, swinging Mjölnir in wide arcs, smashing several heads into toxic spittle. Amid the chaos, Freyja appeared, his wheat golden sword singing with warm light. A powerful strike shattered the ice scales on Jörmungandr's fanged maw, drawing a terrified hiss. In the same instant, Fenrir returned to the fray, catching the recovering troops off guard. Among the shouts, Odin loomed atop Sleipnir. The horse's hoofbeats sounded like war drums. He pointed toward the choosers of the slain hemming in a cluster of Aesir. They come from the void of chaos. This formation must end. Odin struck with his heels. Sleipnir shot upward, dragging the two ravens plunging into the enemy. Their shadows streaked like black lightning, unleashing further panic in the opposing ranks. A sudden silence fell as Odin raised Gungnir to block Ymir's axe. Freyja lifted her cedar staff in unison. Thor drove Mjölnir into the ice, and Tyr planted his shield against Fenrir. The scene froze. Ice and fire intertwined, and the last echo of the battle rang out, the reverberation of the Nine Realms. Then, from afar, a silver radiance flared across Yggdrasil, signalling that the ancient life force intervened. The choosers of the slain suddenly recoiled, as if answering a summoning. They turned silently and vanished into the mist, leaving a stunned Aesir Vanir force standing amid the desolate battlefield. Silence lingered, broken only by the ragged breaths of survivors and the faint groans of earth and stone. The battle ended with no clear victor. The air still hung heavy with smoke and ash, as Odin, Thor and Freyja took their positions atop the shattered rock. Below them, the battlefield of Ashvik lay strangely quiet. Fragments of crystal talismans still emitted a faint glow, traces of lingering magic. Suddenly, wind lashed across everyone's faces, driving the mist into motion. From within that veil, 3 tall figures gradually emerged. They wore black cloaks with hoods drawn low, but their eyes flashed an icy blue. Between them stood a figure wearing a helmet inlaid with bone and a necklace of Fenrir's claws. His voice rumbled like breaking stone. "We are Vanar, Hur, and Nidholm, the last offspring of Niflheim and Muspellheim, born in the chaos before Ymir sealed the Ginnunga Gap. Our ancestor, Nidhugger, gnaws at the roots of Yggdrasil, guardian of the void. We are the choosers of the slain, spawned from darkness to restore balance between frozen cold and consuming fire." No sooner had the declaration fallen than Hur raised his right hand wearing the frozen band, the emblem of dark Seiðr. A cold blue radiance shot out, turning the nearest Aesir warrior into an ice statue, which then shattered into shards. Vanara stepped toward Freyja. His runic staff spun, whipping a vortex that drained her bright Seiðr. The glow around Freyja dimmed, revealing the fox fur cloak beneath the thinning veil of magic. Freyja frowned, her hand trembling as she forced out, "Why do you seek to destroy the balance?" Nidholm, bearing an immovable black dragon shield, smiled dryly. "The balance you worship only imprisons the world between extremes. We have come to break those chains, to open Ginnunga Gap again, so that all beings may return to the void, as they are meant to." Thor snarled, swinging Mjölnir. White lightning exploded toward the trio. "I will never allow that to happen." Thor charged, but Vanar raised a hand to block Mjölnir. A burst of force detonated, turning the field into a sky laced with black sparks. A dark Galder, initiated by Hur. Mjölnir struck the ashes and detonated, forcing Thor to recoil. Odin steeled himself, wielding Gungnir to counter the murderous aura. "If you truly are descendants of Nidhugger, then show me. If I win, you will return to nothingness and no longer meddle in the realm of mortals." Vanar growled, "If you prevail, we will withdraw, but the victor must prove themselves worthy to shoulder this destiny." A duel erupted. Odin and Vanar intertwined spears. The impact cracked the earth. Thor and Nidholm clashed, hammer against ice axe, sending forth bursts of red flame and frost. Freyja and Hur collided in sorcery. Bright Seiðr meeting black, the two lights twisting into towering columns that cleaved the air. The battle raged until none could bear it any longer. Odin drove a spear through Vanar's arm. Thor shattered Nidholm's axe haft with a blow, and Freyja formed a bridge of light that knocked Hur sprawling. As the 3 choosers of the slain collapsed, the silver radiance of Gungnir and the thunder of Mjölnir swept away the dark miasma. They fell into the ash, breaths fading, their eyes slowly dimming. Odin lowered Gungnir, his voice warm like morning mist. Thus the 9 realms have witnessed my choice. The balance shall not be broken. Thor swept the ashes beneath his hammer. Every knot must be tied closed. Freyja lowered her staff. The final cold edge of Seiðr flared, and warmth spread across the battlefield, marking victory, but also sounding the bell that history has only just begun. As the smoke cleared and the ashes settled, shards of ice fell onto the cold ground like carved testaments to the hard-won deeds. Odin, Thor and Freyja stood together in silence, watching the illusory horizon where the last of the mist finally gave way to the first morning light. The north wind blew through, carrying a faint warmth, softly whispering, "Fate has shifted, but the responsibility remains." Odin lifted Gungnir high, his whisper a vow. The 9 realms have been preserved, but from now on both mortals and gods bear the scars of this battle, so every step must guard the balance. Thor brought Mjölnir down in a long resonant strike. The thunderous roar affirmed his resolve. I will be the invisible shield, protecting humanity from the threats of darkness. But also the thunder hammer raised when justice falters. Freyja smiled gently, her eyes filled with maternal warmth. And I, the power of love and hope, will sow seeds of peace, so that even if the ice is brutal, human hearts will still bloom with prosperity. In that moment of calm, a fresh green shoot unfurled from the root of Yggdrasil. It was a sign of new life beginning, a promise of an age of harmony. Those who had fallen, the choosers of the slain, and the warriors of the Aesir and Vanir would be honoured by the undying song of the north wind and the Alfar's harper echoing across the lands. And when night glittered and lone stars streaked across the sky, the tale of the battle of the 9 realms would be retold by hearthside, in the warmth of kinship and mortal gazes. Wherever human dreams dwell, there the legend will continue to burn bright, forever. Curtain falls, but Norse mythology never ends.